All right. Oh no. Of course there is technical difficulties the moment we get started. Peter, you are small and I am sorry about that. All right. So let's get you up and large. There we are. Peter, it is so nice to have you this morning. Thank you all who are watching for a little bit of a delay there. Of course, tech is tech, and it always has to give you some sort of challenge. How are you this morning, Peter?
Very well, thank you, Dustin. It's a bit chilly here in Johannesburg where I am. It's about 5 o'clock in the evening, so already getting into the weekend, but I couldn't think of a better way to start off the weekend than to be talking about online courses. So fantastic to be with you, Dustin, and thank you for the opportunity. And hello to all, everybody that's watching.
Yeah, thank you all. So what we're going to do here, this is the first of regular Friday series, and I just want to give a huge shout out to Peter for being a little bit of my guinea pig with the first one here, but we're gonna try to pay him back with some real great value here. So what we're gonna do is, for a while now I've been offering digital course audits where I use my background as an instructional designer to really look through people's digital online courses that they might sell, kind of like what Peter does. And I look for things like effective teaching, accessible content, and content design, and then an inclusive environment. There's a lot of overlap between those three things, and we're going to see that as we go through this. But I decided why not start doing these live, because what happens is, as I'm having this chat with Peter, all of you watching are going to be able to see what he does really well and choose to implement that kind of stuff and see where he can improve. Oh yeah, I can do that as well. So hopefully we're bringing a lot of value here beyond just Peter and his customers, and hopefully, Peter, this could even be a little bit of a behind-the-scenes sneak peek for people who are considering purchasing your course. If you are interested in this, down in the description below, all of Peter's socials are there, so you'll be able to find him wherever he is on the internet. You'll also be able to see the course that we are talking about. There's a link to that as well. Peter, is there anything that you'd like to kind of introduce about yourself and your teaching? And I looked at your Udemy profile, and it is you got a few courses on there.
Thank you, Justin. Yes, it's my side hustle. I work full-time at a bank here in South Africa, but I started about a year ago. So it's still, I would say, an early stage of the journey for me. And, I've been following a number of sort of the really well-known course creators in the space, and just keen to learn and to grow and to develop, but also recognizing that I don't have, possibly as much time as, people who are full-time in this. So I also, don't aim, for perfection too quickly. It's for me an evolution and a journey, and, every course hopefully gets better and better. And that's really my aim at this stage.
Absolutely. Peter, you may know Janet. She says there's a lot of feedback in there.
That's my mom.
Okay. So that could be good for us. We may need to check. Janet, are you still getting a lot of feedback there as an audience member? There's a few things I can play around with if that's the case. But only on mine. Oh, goodness, of course.
You know what's happening?
I have a feeling. So what I can do... Peter, I think you should still be able to hear me.
Yep.
Courtney, Janet, is this better?
Dustin, it's your feedback according to Courtney.
Yeah.
Maybe you're
all right.
Putting it twice into Zoom and the streaming.
That's what I think is going on, and so I hopefully just changed it. Our audience tends to be about 30 seconds behind us, so okay, that's fine now. Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thank you, Mom, and thank you, Courtney, I appreciate that. Like I was saying earlier, if you were unable to hear my garbled nonsense, Peter is my guinea pig. We are working on how to run all this tech and make sure it works. Of course, my wife and I sat down and we did the trials, and it is what it is. So let's go ahead and let's hop over and actually start looking at Peter's course. All right, look at that transition. I love it. I got some of this fun stuff set up. So Peter, I haven't logged in yet. I haven't done anything. So I really wanted to look at this as though it's a fresh look for me as well. So this is publishing an ebook in 5 days, a beginner's guide to Amazon Kindle. And then you've got a nice little tagline, step by step and screen by screen to take your existing content and publish it in the biggest online bookstore. So right from the start, only looking at these first two things where we're looking at the title and the tagline, that I know what I'm getting at, which is good. Often, right, if I were purchasing this is like the promise and exactly what's going to happen right from the start. And even though that's kind of a big business term, right, your course promise or your course transformation, that is a really important thing in teaching as well. So the fact that you're really clear at the start here is great. So what I'm going to first look for, and this is kind of we're going to go through this sales page for 4 specific things. I'm going to be looking first here for a 3 to 5 specific, what I call plot points. These are your primary learning outcomes or your transformation. So what do you want your customers to get out of this, or your students, I should say. So what tends to happen, and I kind of see it here already for you, Peter, is you'll say, people do this, what you'll learn. And holy moly, I'm overwhelmed already, right? These are all probably really great things, right? These are things that I want to know, but let's start with a digestible 3 to 5. So what are the big 3 to 5, like the top 3 things that you're going to get out of this, or the top 5, right? Make it digestible, because my guess is you could probably categorize all of these different goals here into a few bigger, broader ones. And there's room for these. And I'll show you where these things come in a little bit later. But I really like to start with a 3 to 5, make it clear and obvious. What do you think of that?
I totally agree. I just looking at it now, objectively, it is overwhelming and there's too many in there. Whereas I think as a course instructor, you're trying to, just display value rather than help make a decision to purchase, I guess.
Right. And this is, they do go hand in hand, right? And we have this long form. There's been this business push for long form. And from my teacher's standpoint, it always makes me cringe. Because I know that if I put more than like 3 sentences in it, my students don't read it. And my guess is if you've even looked at courses, you'd maybe look at the first of these and you'd be like, okay, all right. So people are going to make a big assumption, like I said, just from these first ones. So can you, what you're going to be able to do, or what you're going to be able to accomplish. So publish an ebook in 5 days. That could be one, even though it's right in the title. So you're going to learn the step-by-step process of converting existing content into a manuscript, right? So kind of, again, coming from that tagline there, and then you'll learn how to convert your manuscript into a well-formatted ebook, or, right, you're the expert on this, but this is just kind of what's coming to mind. And like I said, all this stuff is important, and I'll show you where it comes in. But right from the start, I like to see a nice 3 to 5, make it clear, make it obvious. And there will be time and room for all of these important aspects a little later. So so that's part of kind of the effective teaching realm. The next piece is your specific or ideal customer avatar is defined. Again, kind of overlapping into some of the business realm. But the thing with this one, and I'll try to go back here for just a moment longer. Why this is so important is if you want your students to be successful, if you want the right people to purchase this course and achieve your outcome, they need to be in the right place. And that's where we're trying to operate from, is we want our students to be successful. You want those success stories. You want to hear that they got it published in 5 days. And so we need to make sure that the right people are buying your course and that your students are in the right mindset for that. So we're really looking for, do you have something that shows them where they are in their learning journey, or whether this is applicable for them or not? This is kind of like if you go to uni or college, this is the prerequisites. Like, what prerequisite should I have before I take this class? And so it looks like you have some right here, and this is awesome. Right below that, students must have an existing manuscript, series of blog articles, which is perfect. One thing that I am noticing, kind of a little tangent. Okay, there's the KDP. You reference this KDP, and I assume that it was Kindle, but you don't establish your what this is until a little bit further down this page. So I've been lost on KDP till I went back there. But so you say this is where they're at. They need sufficient time, which is great. We'll come back to that. And then you need, okay, this is perfect. My only other question that I would maybe have here is, do I need to have any tech experience, or is there certain tech things that you're going to have me use that I might need to know how to use? So maybe I need to have Google Docs up and ready, or some other manuscript type thing. Any other purchases, but otherwise you've kind of started to hit this.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah.
Just on the what you'll learn bullet points there, I find on Udemy, when they stack the courses in search rankings, for example, and you hover over the thumbnail, it only shows you the first 3 of those what you learn. So typically I always make sure that the top 3 are the critical ones. So I could probably almost delete the rest of them. It's kind of just for additional reading. But Udemy automatically cut off everything other than the first 3 if you're viewing the thumbnail of the course on a search rankings page. Okay, so that's also important to know, right? We have to work within the platform that we're using. And so my guess is this is kind of a template where when you're building your course, you fill out the what you'll learn area. Correct, 100%. Okay. And so I don't know how much play you have with that. I like potentially just deleting 3 to 5. My worry is there might be something in the Udemy algorithm that courses with more of these things do better in search, which might be something for you to look into. But again, we could try to be clever, like you mentioned, making sure the top ones, or you could be like key transformation 1, and then just set up your first 3 or 4 that way with like key transformation or key outcome, and then have the other ones there. Because if that's what helps Udemy's search algorithm, we don't want to hinder your students' ability to find your course. But I also see down here in the description that I just noticed a typo right there. Catch that one for you. Thank you. But you can put a lot of these down here in the description, it looks like, and you even have a who this course is for. So again, you're coming back to that and try to be as specific as possible. So you can bring a lot of these down in the description. I just really would look to see, does Udemy actually change your searchability or your findability based on how many
what you'll learn pieces there are. So maybe that's some homework for you there. Because I'd hate for that to happen.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing we need to do, and I'm looking for on the sales page, is what the course format's going to be, the structure, the timeline. This is really important. One, for inclusive environment, right? I'm a busy dad of a special needs boy with a full-time job and a side hustle, and how am I going to be able to do this course, right? So we're really trying to set our students up for success. And so a lot of actually good teaching goes into just good organization here. And so we're looking for clear timeline as we go through this. So we have the description. You have a sufficient time mentioned here. Day 1 is about 2 hours, day 2, 3 hours, depending on the length of the book. Day 3, 2, day 4, 1, day 5, 1. Okay, so this, to me, that's great. It tells me my time commitment over the next 5 days, which is perfect. And that's to complete all the actions. One of the things that you mentioned for me, and what I see over here, is that there's 4.5 hours of video. So you're giving me 2, 5, and then 9. So you're saying I could do all of this in 9 hours over 4 days, but 4.5 hours just to watch the videos only leaves me 4.5 hours to write the book and get it published. And I don't know. I mean, Peter, you might be totally right, but I'm a little like, ooh, 4.5 hours to write a book. Could I do that?
Well, I mean, so the prerequisite of existing content means that the focus is on just reorganizing it. But I do agree, it feels a bit light, and you're 100% correct. The prerequisite hours, I think, should be in addition to the video content duration. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And that's not going to turn me off. That's going to help me be more realistic. Okay, there's about 4.5 hours of video that I need to watch, and then implementation. So like you could do it as like learning hours and implementation hours, and just make a distinction in that. And I feel like, okay, if I'm really committing to doing this in 5 days, I know that it's going to be a sprint, right? That's implied. So what does that sprint look like? Can I budget it out? I'm on spring break this week, or kids are on vacation. Is this something I could do, right? So there's that. My next question, or kind of coming along here, on-demand video. So that tells me they're ready to go when I want it. 7 downloadable resources that I could use, full lifetime access. You've got activities, lessons. And then here's the course content. So the intro, day 1. Okay, so you're kind of moving through. It's clear that you're moving through at your own pace. I think I have a pretty clear overview of the course format, the structure, the timeline. Udemy is known for being courses that you just take independently. So I don't think you're going to run into people who are necessarily looking for like a community aspect here. So I don't think we need to worry too much about that. I would just kind of try to flush out that time a little bit. That's where I'm noticing. Okay. All right. And then finally, a bio, right? If you've caught any of my YouTube videos, and if you're watching, you all can catch these in the channel, but connection is one of the most important things to effective teaching. And so connecting with you, the instructor, is hugely important. And it also brings a lot of trust in when you're able to kind of establish your credibility. Now, we're aiming for that nice balance of introducing yourself, being personable, connecting, but also establishing credibility. So we want a picture, we want preferred pronouns, introducing yourself and your credibility. So if I look, I think I saw that down here. It looks like Udemy does a great job of this for you. So we've got your name, we've got kind of 3 key areas. You've got great instructor rating, 4,000 reviews and a 4.3. That's awesome. Congratulations, and 40,000 students. Peter, that is, see, that's great. That makes me feel really good.
Thanks, Dustin.
So I'm just kind of looking through it. I love that you have some stuff bolded here, which is awesome. Okay, so I think your bio is great. Just for the inclusive aspect, I personally would like to see your preferred pronouns on there. Obviously, it's not a requirement, but it's a simple thing to do that just, you know, lets people know that just about everyone is welcome here in your course.
Super.
So that's the sales page. So let's dive into the actual course. I'm going to apply my coupon. I'm going to enroll now, and I might, while I enroll, in case it asks for any of my own personal information, I'm just going to kind of switch us back to this screen where they don't get to see all of that as I enroll. Oh yeah, look at that. I want my full name. I don't want anyone on YouTube to know that. So I always like going through this because it gives me kind of a view of what it looks like to come through as a customer. All right, so zip code. Which you are using a platform like Udemy, so it's really straightforward. It's nice and clear going through this all. And now we're back here and I have it ready. Start course is a nice progress bar. You have kind of a generic picture, which that's just me being nitpicky. I like more specific thumbnails for these things. Maybe a picture with you and that in the background. I don't know, but that's just me being nitpicky. So now that we're in, I want to know, I'm looking for kind of start here stuff. Are you setting me as the student up for success? And so you have this introduction video. Let's go ahead and just watch that real quick, or we're not going to watch the whole thing. I'm going to skip around.
5 days time. If you follow the lessons and do the work according to the plan,
introducing the course,
which makes your contribution to the world. Before we get started though, one important concept.
Okay,
this course
awesome.
is not about
Udemy
writing a bestseller or publishing a perfect book.
Yes. Yep. Yeah,
this course is about getting it done.
Which I need to go and check.
If you aim for perfection or a bestseller the first time you publish, then you probably just will never get your book out.
The thing I say about closed captions here is it's better than nothing, right? And people get frustrated that they're not perfectly accurate. My big argument is your students are smart students, Peter. If you're talking about Kindle and Amazon, it's not going to say, like, if it says amazing instead of Amazon, like, they're going to get the context of the sentence, right? It's more than just that one word that goes into it. So they're absolutely better than nothing. And if you have the bandwidth to go through and make sure they're perfect, then that's great. But I like even just the automatic ones. And a big part of my goal is just having everyone watching and course creators take a step towards that accessibility. And if that's where your bandwidth is, I think that's a good first step, right? Okay, so we've got this introduction. You're kind of mapping out the course. This is great. This is what I'm looking for. This is the start here, which is perfect. And then when I come here, so we have the introduction, we have the start here. These are kind of counterintuitive. Number 2 is start, but I started with introduction.
Okay.
Welcome to this overview lesson, which I'm going to teach you from this whiteboard over here.
All right, I like the nice visuals that we have here. So again, you're kind of viewing the platform. And again, for the sake of time, like if I were to be doing this behind the scenes, I'd be going through these a lot more in depth. But my question here is, are you kind of repeating the same things between introduction and start here? Or, because I saw you kind of breaking things down in introduction.
The whiteboard lesson sort of maps out the structure of the course, whereas the introduction explains a little bit more about the journey of the student through what they're going to achieve and what they're going to be doing to get there.
Okay.
Which
perfect.
I try and come at it from two different angles.
Yeah, no worries. I think that's great. I just want to make sure you're not overlapping too much there, and coming at from a couple different angles is great. So we have that start here page, which is great. In this case, the people get immediate access to it, so there's not something to do between like now and the start of the course. But there is a start here section that sets them up. One thing I would like to see in this is how to navigate. And I know this seems really like kind of simple, but again, we're trying to set our students up for success. And so what I like to do is in this start here, what you can do is you can do start here. Instead of calling it the introduction, just call it start here and introduce yourself, talk about what you were going to talk about. And then the next video here, I would like to see just a little bit of a course tour. So how do you navigate it? And what you can do is log in here like a student, like we are now, record your screen and just give a little overview. Be like, okay, over here we have the sections. They're broken down by day 1, day 2, day 3. When you go into any one of them, you'll see that there's a main lesson and then there's a demo lesson with some resources. If you click this drop down button, you can download these things.
Welcome to this.
And I know that that seems really, really simple, but you would be surprised the amount of students, and you probably have gotten this, be like, Peter, I can't find the Kindle template version 1.2. You mentioned it. And they're like,
no, that's brilliant.
Where? Yeah. So I like to, it saves you some time, sets them up for success. I can't promise you won't get questions like that still, though.
No, that's brilliant, Dustin. That is an outstanding suggestion. I've never actually thought about screen recording the students' view of the entire course like you're doing now. That had never occurred to me, and I've never actually seen that in any other Udemy course. So thank you for that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and like I said, you don't have to go through, it doesn't need to be more than 2 or 3 minutes, but it just kind of shows them how to navigate it. And some people might skip it, some people may use it and be like, okay, because the goal and the idea here is you set this up strategically. You, the expert, put this together so that I can learn it. And oftentimes with the expert paradox, what seems natural to us might actually be like saying, well, instead of A, B, C, D, it's A, D, F, Z, right? That sounds natural to you, the master, but the beginner's like, wait, how did I get from A to D? And so kind of keeping those little things in mind of even just, you've made 32 courses in Udemy, so it's second nature to you. But if this is your first one, just give them a nice little overview, let them know like your goals for each one and that sort of thing. And I'll talk about that. But I like having some sort of course tour. This is effective teaching and inclusiveness. Just kind of helps people work through it. Again, I like to have you introduce yourself and your team, which my guess is you did that in your intro. For some people, this could be important just because they may purchase the course and where they saw your whole bio when they purchased the course, and then they might not start it for a week or 2 weeks, or maybe you were having a sale and I know that I'm not going to be ready to publish this ebook until July when my kids are on vacation. And so when I come back, it just helps put everything back into reference. And so I think you've got this with that little introduction video. And again, I like to remind people that the connection with the instructor is actually often more important than the content itself. So that's why we come back to this. All right, again, coming back in, jumping back in, we want to set our mindset. Where are they going? What are those 3 to 5 outcomes? So going back to the sales page, I want to see those here again. It could, again, just even be a little section in this introduction, be like your goals or what I want you to get out of this. So just it provides a reference. It doesn't have to be a video unless you want it to be. It could just be a little text.
And then you can also do
see what are those 3 to 5 things. And again, it's like if you were to plug in an address on your Google Maps or Apple Maps, you need to know where you're going in order to know how to get there, in order for the drive to make sense. My wife, she likes to side street drive me, or side passenger drive. She'll be like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "I'm going here." And she's like, "Oh, okay." So like, right, the route isn't making sense to her until she knows where we're going. So I like to have that destination in mind with those outcomes. So again, coming back into here, and this is one that I see a lot of people miss. You tell them all that they're going to learn. You set these great things up on the sales page, and then once they're in the course, there's no reference to the outcome until you get there. Let's see. So again, kind of this is all first getting everything set up, a little bit of review of the structure, purpose of the course, which you did right in your start here. That's perfect. So I'm going to kind of breeze through that one. An opportunity for students to introduce themselves. Now you do have asynchronous course here, or evergreen course as it's known as in the business world. And I don't know what Udemy's platform is for. So there's a Q&A where we could search questions in this course. So it looks like people can post questions and answer them. And again, you have to think about the purpose of your course and your audience. But in terms of effective teaching, those 3 connections are huge. So they connect with you, they connect with the content, and they connect with each other. And when you kind of hit all 3, it's where you get the most bang for your buck. So I would love to see some clear instructions of how I could just check in with what other people are asking. Or it doesn't have to be like a community. It could just be like, oh, and if you have a question, you can ask it here. So there's the new question. I could see what this gentleman asked. It looks like I could potentially, your reply was there. I could add a reply. So maybe in that course tour, just show them how to do this. And it gives them an opportunity to connect, and takes you 30 seconds to do. But in an asynchronous or evergreen course, it's still good to have an opportunity for students to connect, or at least see other people going through the same thing that they are.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah. And then let's see, and this is one that is kind of emerging between teaching and business. I like to see some sort of copyright or use of course material statement included. And now that sounds kind of like a legal approach and business approach, which is obviously important, right, to protect yourself. But the other thing is it sets your students up for how to interact with your course materials. So am I allowed to download these and that sort of thing? Can I screen record it and come back to it? Sometimes these are things that people would do just to learn, obviously without nefarious intentions. But in case there are those nefarious intentions, you've got it covered. So I like to just see, this could be on the sales page, this could be in the intro, but I like to see something that's kind of like, here's how I expect you to interact with this material. All material stays in Udemy, but you have lifetime access to it. Just simple statement like that.
Got it. Fantastic.
All right. so that's kind of the intro, right? We've barely gotten into the course, but what so much of this is setting your students up for success to navigate through it. So now we're going to actually look at the course design, how you present your materials, where your teaching and learning happens. And so you've set them up for success, right? We've got the map in, we understand our route, we're in the car, now we're ready to go on our journey, ready to drive. So the course, one of the things I'm looking for is we want to make sure we understand that route, but that route is logical, right? We're trying to get to those 3 to 5 outcomes. So do you have it broken down in ways that are digestible and easy to understand? And it looks like you really do. People tend to do a good job of this one in particular. So, right, so we have our introduction section. Then day 1, we talk about the publisher mindset, burning your boats, which has me curious. What's burning your boats? You want to give people a little preview of what it means to burn your boats?
Absolutely, Dustin. And it's, I teach that technique in a lot more detail in a number of other courses. It's a time management technique where you commit to somebody else something that you're going to do, and that focuses your mind to get it done because you've externalized that commitment. Committing to yourself, you can self-justify why, other distractions and other tasks are more important. So, and it's something I learned from Paul Thompson, actually, and he had a very good, and I never thought about bringing it into my courses. So I do it a lot more now. And I actually get people to stop the video and then send a couple of messages to commit to the goal of the outcome, like in this case, to publish an ebook within 5 days. And then at the end of the course, I say, well, now talk back to the people that you committed that you were going to do the course originally or publish the book, when you burnt your boats.
I love that. Thanks for the little preview. Yeah, that's great. And I love that you have action items, which is one of the things we're going to look for here soon. Let's see, this overview here. This is like the same stuff that was on the sales page. Is that just how Udemy operates, or is there because I would love to see, like, with this burn your boats, right, you could have your 3 tasks for this one. So watch the video, reach out to 3 people, burn your boats, and then move on to the next lesson or something. I'd like to see my action steps somewhere, which looks like you have here towards, which is great. I love that you have nice visuals come along with your teaching. Your face is on the screen. One of the things that we'll get to that. I'm jumping ahead, but for right now, we're looking at a nice, clear, good structure, which is what we have. It looks like it leads to it, right? We need to get our mindset right. We need to set ourselves up. We need to then organize, then we need to upload and do some settings, create a cover, select different enrollments and pricings, which is perfect. Yeah, so this is a nice logical, like, I've never published it, but this seems logical and straightforward to me, and bite-sized chunks, which is what we're after. And again, kind of the second point, what I often see happen is these two seem really similar. Straightforward design that leads to the plot and course structure are logical to learning progression. I see people do great modules, but they're in weird orders. And so again, we want to step by step. What's your first turn? What's your second turn? What's your third turn? And again, it looks like you're doing a great job of that here with just nice logical. I can see the logic without being an expert, which is perfect.
Great. Thanks, Dustin.
Yeah, this is one that a lot of teachers, even teachers in higher ed, miss. The course modules or the sections have their own clear and achievable learning outcomes that lead back to the plot. The plot again is that 3 to 5. And if you remember at the beginning, when we were looking at all those learning objectives that you had, I said there's a time and a place for them. And that's where this comes in. So you can use those. They are important, but put them into these sections. So day one, what are my goals? So in day one, you're going to achieve these 3 things, or like you're going to learn these 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 things. There might be 7 of those mini achievements or mini outcomes from that big list you had at the start, but just kind of pepper those throughout these sections, because again, it's what are we doing in this step? How is this step moving us closer? And frameworking our learning gives the brain the opportunity to make sense of it. The brain really works well with frameworks. And so if you can give it the framework, it will build on top of it. So we need to do the work, give it the skeleton, it will create the muscles, so to speak. And so, yeah, I'd really love to see.
Hello there. So
I don't know if
in this lesson,
even just a little bit of text that could go right at the beginning of section 2, like what are your goals?
So grab a pen.
Goal in this lesson.
You will learn.
What are my action steps?
Welcome to this
in these different lessons. I'd really love to see that. I think that'd go a long way to giving your students even small little wins as they're going through.
Yeah, Dustin, the activity lesson you'll see under each day is a screen recording of a slide, and I build out, the actions one by one, and then narrate it just as a reminder of exactly what the student needs to focus on to be successful in that individual.
And a very warm welcome to this
that provides more detail on each of those actions. So, for example, for day 1, it's lesson number 10.
Okay, perfect. So what I would do is I'd do a brief introduction of that at the beginning and then return to it. Again, it's providing that framework. So I see that now, the activity lesson day 1, or you could even just call this your action steps. That's real straightforward action steps. I know that I need to take action there. A simple, that would have probably maybe even drawn my attention to it a little bit better. Activity is a great way to describe it, right? But again, we want to be as obvious as possible. The internet is a very distracting place. And so if we could make it nice and clear and action steps day 1, you probably would barely need to change anything on there besides just the title of it. And so then you're going through the actions. Okay, perfect. Let's see. So again, we just talked about that. We have our goals, but then we have actionable activities or homework with clear instructions. This allows your students to apply and actually do a little bit of work on it. Learning happens in 2 phases. We have to intake, and that is what a lot of people think of as learning, is you just intake, right? This is why students just reread a chapter over and over and reread slides over and over before they test, is it becomes familiar to them and that feels like learning. But then you probably heard of students who they get to the test and they're like, I have no idea what to do. It's because they haven't had a chance to like pull it out. They're like, I remember reading this, but I can't access it. And so we really need both those steps. We need intake and output, which if you have those action steps, that's perfect. So action steps. What are my action steps to apply this material so I really learn it and know how to do it? Now, we're obviously not testing our students, but you want them to be successful. You want to set them up for success. And so those action steps will help solidify what you're teaching them. This is one that I think a lot of people in asynchronous or in kind of evergreen courses miss in terms of feedback on their progress. It's really helpful for students to see and get feedback. Now, this feedback doesn't have to be you, Peter, looking at their work and saying, this is good, this is bad. And I think that's where a big misconception here is. what you can do is you can show them yours. They can do that feedback on their own. And so these 2 points kind of come together here. They can do a self-check type feedback in this evergreen course. So what does it look like? What does a successful action step look like? So do you have anything like that? Again, right, you've got a lot of content here, and so I'm going to defer to you as the expert in pointing it out to me.
Dustin, there is, a feature in Udemy. There's 2 really like that. So the one is quizzes, and the other is assignments. And it's quite interesting. I was listening to one of Phil Ebener's podcast episodes, and he had been to the Udemy Live conference the one year. And even the Udemy developers and instructional designers they didn't seem to really guide them in a very specific direction as to whether they should use that or build the action steps into a lesson, as I've done. So some of my other courses, I used the quizzes quite extensively and then would have an assignment at the end, which in this case, the assignment would be, I guess, to, publish the book, I guess. So I didn't add the quizzes or assignments features in here because it would have just added steps on the right-hand side that might have duplicated the lesson-based action steps. So it's a little bit experimental from my side. But what I have done in other courses is to have an introduction step, before the course, and then under the Q&A tab, people then can introduce themselves. And I could extend that by saying, go back to that where you introduced yourself and just, mention to everyone else, how you feel about your progress. The problem with that is the Q&A tab is intuitively not for introducing yourself or for updating the rest of the students. It's for putting questions and getting answers, which I've had some feedback on. It's not intuitive until somebody else has done it. So Great feedback, and I will just certainly think about how to incorporate that in this specific course. Yeah, and what you can do is you can direct them. Say, I know the Q&A tab seems like it's for questions, but it's a place for, right, in that course tour, you set them up for how to use it. And so, right, you kind of mentioned they don't use it unless they've seen someone else do it. And so if you're giving that course tour, you can tell them how you want to use it, and you can kind of get clever there. Regarding the quizzes, I totally agree with you. I don't think you should put quizzes in this, and quizzes in general, right? You're used to them from going through grade school and higher ed, and if it's a training, like if your course is meant to be a training that someone uses day to day going forward, a quiz might be important because they're not going to have your course to reference back to and your content to reference back to as they are working with the customer or something like that. But in a how-to guide, in a step-by-step guide, it doesn't make any sense, because if I want to publish this, I'm going to have on this screen my manuscript, and I'm going to be taking the action steps that you're telling me, and I'm going to have your content here. So I totally agree. Quizzes aren't great. Assignments, it depends on how Udemy formats it. And like you said, we just want those clear action steps. So if those are calls to action in your videos, that's great. One of the things I'm just really looking for is, how do I know if I'm doing it successfully? I need to be able to look at my work compared to something that's successful. Yeah. So maybe, what did your manuscript look like? Can you show me a couple pages out of it just in a video? And I could be like, okay, mine looks like this. Peter's looks like this. It looks like I missed a couple of these things, right? Or one of the clever things you could do with assignments is, I'm not sure if the assignment is something like they submit a file and then you can look at it. What you can do is, obviously you can't look at all of your students. You've got 40,000 students, Peter. What you can do though, is if you really want to take things up a step, is after this course has been out there, take one and do a video breakdown. Call it a bonus.
And so you take one person's submitted assignment and you just kind of piece through it like we're doing here. And what this does is now that's a bonus where they could have theirs up and they could be looking at someone else's that you, the expert, are talking through and working through. And so that gives them that opportunity to self-check and get feedback, even though it's not feedback as like we would traditionally think of it. But again, we're trying to set them up for success, and that's one way that you can do that. So I'm not sure what that fits into Udemy's thing, but that's one of the things I tend to look for here.
Dustin, in lesson 15, if you jump to about halfway through, once you've got through the
and a very warm welcome to this demonstration lesson
itself,
to take you
you'll start to see that
have a look at the supported file types on
Kindle,
KDP and go into styling and editing,
the steps of uploading
the layout
manuscript,
or
creating the cover
on Amazon.
So there's some of that in the demo lessons, but
to try
I think
different
it
options
might be a little bit lost, and I should
ebooks
make
work
it more
application
explicit.
of
You can go and see
the principles
my
that I teach. Now,
manuscript, my cover for this book, etc., which will then help reinforce and just confirm for them whether they're taking the right steps.
Yeah, I love it. And it could just be a quick little like, here's how I took those or what it looks like. But yeah, I do love that you have the demo lessons.
This demonstration, Narato's Kanban
and
I talk about how Narato sent me a picture.
No, ironically, the book that I demo is getting things done, which is kind of a circular reference back to the course itself.
Yeah. Is that I'm having the brain dead. Is it the typical GTD, like the whole getting things done framework?
No, I just I combine again burn the boats with Kanban.
Okay.
So Kanban, just to visualize workflow, and I kind of just bring those two concepts together, which I learned from some coaching that I've done with some students, and I converted that into a book and another course. But then I bring it in here as an example of an ebook.
Okay, yeah, I love it. Okay, perfect. So that's kind of going through the course design. You do great visuals. I love that you had the whiteboard up behind you. You've got visuals of what you're talking about. I see you highlighting stuff. I like these demo lessons, the main lessons.
And a paper,
you've got
and then
some nice visuals up here. One of the things that I personally like when I teach is I don't like to have my face on there the whole time. And that's not just me like being afraid of being on video. The focus is I want them to be focused on the content. So I like to be on video at the start, introduce it, you see me, and then I get my face off the screen. And I know that a lot of people feel like you have to be on the screen the whole time for whether that helps them teach effectively or not, or they don't just want to have a PowerPoint voiceover. But the thing is, if you execute that PowerPoint voiceover well, you could hop in and out in terms of having your face on the screen. And that will actually help them stay more engaged if they're seeing the screen and they're seeing your prompts, and then all of a sudden it's just you talking, and then it's you and the screen. So kind of just a little bit of editing there. You don't have to be on the screen the whole time. And I actually feel like the instructor on the screen the entire time is slightly distracting from the content. But I do think it's important that your face is in each video. There's just a little bit of a balance there.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of thoughts there, Dustin. So, what I've learned is just to keep the variation. So in this course, there are the demo lessons that I don't put my face on, and then the activity lessons and the one-on-one lessons.
Now, what's nice as well is you've got the slider bar over here.
The challenge I have with sort of talking video is that I script my courses, so I speak into a prompter, and I'm getting better, but I have had some reviews that say my sort of tone is a little bit monotonous and it feels like I'm reading the script, which I am.
Right.
It obviously saves my editing time significantly because I almost do the editing beforehand and then I just have to deliver it spontaneously into camera. So I'm working on building in a little bit of spontaneity into my delivery on the Talking Heads videos. And then I totally agree with you, just to spice it up, vary things as much as possible, which I sort of did almost by fortuitous do in this case, because on the demo lessons, I didn't have a setup that I could have my face on. I thought, well, it was on enough of the other videos, so rather, let me hide myself away and let them focus on what's on the screen.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially when you are trying to like show something on screen. Definitely keep your face off of that. And what you can do is, again, with a little bit of video editing, just hop on, do a off the cuff type introduction. So, all right, we're going to be breaking down exactly how to upload the manuscript, create a cover. I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did for my cover, and we'll give you the action steps. Let's get after it, right? Just a 30-second impromptu intro, and that might help with that feedback of like, they feel like you're reading or kind of monotone. And then what you could even do with that is, on this video that we see on the screen, right? Maybe a few seconds is just you and the talking head talking through stuff. The next slide is just the slide. So you're not the talking head, but it's just the video. You're not on there. And then maybe there's ones like this. And if you kind of switch between those three things, it will feel less monotone and monotonous of the entire video, right? There's not a lot of changes going on here, right? As I even just kind of scroll my mouse, we see that that doesn't happen. And so that actually helps keep attention. So as someone's going through this, if the screen changes, all of a sudden they're kind of cued back in because they have to take in this new visual, and then it changes again. And I'm not saying every 30 seconds, but even every minute or 2 minutes, right? Just kind of switch it up, and it could be the PowerPoint for a few, and that I think could help a lot. And what you can do is, I don't know what Udemy does in terms of giving you insights, but if you look at completion rates and you notice that there's a lesson or two or a specific time where people are dropping off, that's where you want to implement those changes in particular. So if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, look through, you could see completion rates. And if you see that lesson 14, everyone's kind of, that's where people are dropping off. That's where we need to put some sort of variability, some sort of check-in, some sort of get them re-engaged type of thing. And that could even just be a change up of the video.
Yeah. I mean, Dustin, a couple of thoughts on that one. I think also at the end of each video, I sort of try and encourage them to go to the next one, keep going from one to the next. And then just on the point of, building in the spontaneity, that's also why I do those upfront whiteboard videos, because that is off the cuff. I have a version of the completed whiteboard just off camera so that I can see what I'm aiming towards, but it's definitely not scripted. So there's lots of mistakes and spontaneity and fumbling, and it represents much more of what I do in my day job, which is, up on a flip chart and a whiteboard in front of a room full of people co-creating, sort of frameworks and ideas, etc. So I've tried to bring in the spontaneity into those whiteboard lessons, and I could look at doing more of those in, smaller versions of them throughout the course, for example.
Yeah, I loved that one. When that pulled up, I liked that. That's engaging. You're building something out. Yeah. I personally like that a lot.
When I look at the core stats, and you can certainly go in and see, which videos are watched more than others, the whiteboards are by far the most engaged, watched, till the end of all my courses.
Yeah. There's something you're building out this whiteboard. So what's the final product going to look like, right? It's almost a story, right? You're seeing it, the blank screen, and then you're seeing it get built out, and people want to stick around for the end of it. And again, there's this, and this might be me in my position on teaching, but there's this idea that you have to be real stoic and real put together, and all of your words have to be perfect. And I prefer the human aspect of it. It does kill me because I say so and so a lot. I say those little filler words, but the thing is, that's me being real and honest and not a robot, and being here and personable. And I feel like that goes a lot further than just being completely put together the whole time. So you can have both, but it looks like you're putting a lot of these things in. And like I said, if this were a behind the scenes one that I was really sitting down to do, I'd be going through this with a fine tooth comb. So I appreciate that you are pointing out that, oh, hey, I do have this over here as well. So we've got a few more things, and I know we're kind of going towards the end of our time. We got started a little late, but in terms of delivery, it's looking really good. I love the structure, Peter. You're doing really good with the structure. And that's sometimes one of the most important parts. So here we're going to look into kind of inclusivity and accessibility considerations. So one of the things that we're looking for is if you are having people represented in your graphics and your course materials, we try to have a diverse population in there. Again, connection goes so far with, or goes a really long way with learning. And so one of the ways people can connect with your content is seeing themselves in it, or seeing someone that they could connect with in there. So a lot of it is obviously you talking, which is important because you're the instructor, and it doesn't look like you're using a lot of like visual materials outside of the screen. So this one might not necessarily completely apply to you. If you had more like pictures of people and videos and stuff like that, that's where this one would really come in. So the instructional format. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
No, I totally agree with you. And it's, one of those things, you're sitting 1 o'clock in the morning editing a video and you think, oh, I should put a couple of pictures in here and visual, and you think, oh, can I just click it off and submit it or whatever? But it's always so good. Paul Thompson said a brilliant thing in one of his podcasts. He said, it's not about making it easy for you, it's about making it easy for your students. And that requires you to do more work. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah. And so we obviously want to keep it relevant just for anyone watching who's trying to do this, right? So we want to avoid what's called tokenism, where you put in a token minority type person, or you have a checklist. It's obviously important to make sure that you're just trying to authentically not only show people who look like you or act like you or have the same beliefs as you. And there's a website that I like, pexels.com, and it's a free stock photo image. They're all high quality. And the thing is, they do a great job of just naturally being very diverse. So if you're looking to have an image of someone in front of a computer, you're going to find a real diverse group of people just by searching person on a computer. So I really love that website. It just kind of helps you do it out the gate. In terms of instructional format, accessible design and effective teaching go really hand in hand here. I like to call this the media trifecta, in terms of anytime we have video, we want to have audio and text along with it. And so we have those closed captions, which go a long way. And there's some debate. People often don't like providing audio files of their content, and oftentimes audio files don't work for like these audio. It'd be hard to do an audio only of this, because you're showing step by step, click this button, do this thing. But in terms of the main lesson, I would love to see, especially from an accessibility standpoint, do you have an audio only file that you can, again, I don't know how much this area right here kind of feels like space that could be used for this kind of stuff, like linking a download or putting some notes, but I'm not as familiar with building on the Udemy platform. You have the resources, so you could always just do a resource audio file download for these main lessons, or what I've seen people do is host a private podcast and they just upload it all as the private podcast. But the thing is, if you have these video lessons, audio is so easy. Just go into your video editor that you use to put this together and click export audio. And now you have the audio file. Like, people feel like these things are really, really hard to do, but they're actually really, really easy to do. So export video, export audio, and then you've got the audio file. How you choose to share that out is up to you. But it gives people another way to engage with your material, which goes a long way to learning just in general, but also helps you meet accessibility standards. And then we have those closed captionings. I would love to see a transcript of it. Udemy might even let you download. A lot of companies that do this automatic captioning will often let you download the transcript, right? They did all the work. So it's just downloading often an SRT file or a text file of those closed captions. And again, it's not perfect. Oh, they do have a transcript button right there. Oh, love it. Okay. So it auto scrolls. So we have the transcript. Good on Udemy. The only thing, can I download the transcript? No, that's the course. Because what if I wanted to sit down and read this, or what if I needed a screen reader is kind of what I'm looking for. So what you can do, here's my workaround just from what I'm seeing. Obviously, I don't know all your tools. Open up the transcript, highlight, copy, paste into a Google Doc and save it as a PDF. Again, it's not polished, it's not perfect, and I have a feeling that I will get flack out there from accessibility advocates of like, these need to be perfect. And again, my goal is to get everyday creators like you, Peter, taking those steps towards a more accessible learning environment. And if that means having you export your automatically captioned things as a text file, that's a step in the right direction. And that's progress. Yeah. And so I would love to see just especially with these main lessons, an audio and a text to go with it, just under resources.
100%, Dustin. And I mean, ironically, another circular reference is that on a number of my other courses, I've converted the course into an ebook. And then I linked. Yeah, so then because you get 4 announcements for each course every month, and then I just make an announcement to the students and say, hey, this ebook's, and you can have a 5-day free promotion from Amazon, so it's free for them. Obviously, I just need a Kindle reader, but that transcript I've then obviously, and I do a little bit more work for the ebook, and my mom helps me edit it as well. But I make it readable in a book format from start to finish, so that is a bit more of a polished version of the transcript. Yeah. And I also have the script, which I combine into that as well. So sometimes you'll go into the course and you'll see under the announcements page that I've actually posted an ebook version of the course. And maybe there's some supplemental and additional content in the ebook as well that people can then take for reference and read in future. And then on your point about audio, I've done other courses where there's an audio file that they provide with the course. And I've gone through the course and then I download the audio file. And if I'm going on a long trip, I'll put the audio file up in my headphones and I can listen to that. And because I've been through the course, it's a reinforcement of that content for me as the student. So I completely agree with you. That's definitely a value add for my courses as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That is universal design for learning right there in a nutshell, is that it's not just people who need these type of learning accommodations who are going to use your the materials you make. Is everyday people they might listen to it. Like I said this with Paul, I like to listen while I work out at the gym, and then I like to come and sit down and implement it as I go through it again. So it's reinforcing the material. You like to cue it back up for a long flight, reinforcing the material. So everyone benefits from this kind of stuff. One thing, Paul, that I just want to say is that I don't want you to fall into the trap of, oh, I do this in one of my courses, or I do this in another course, because if they're scattered across your 32 courses, it's great for the ones that are in, but it's still missing that cohesive picture. And one of the goals that we really want is for that to be a part of every course and every lesson, which is a lot of work, especially going back through building. And this is kind of one of my big messages, is that doing this going backwards can be tough. It can be a good day's worth of work to go and export all of those things and re-upload them. But if we build for that from the start, now you're building out your new course, and you export audio, export transcript, load them up. And it's so much faster building it from the start that way. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there, because that's like a false sense of accomplishment that I find course creators coming in. They're like, oh, I've got this, I have that in this one lesson over here. And I'm like, well, you got 16 other lessons. So just don't let that roll you.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right, Dustin. And I think a lot of course creators kind of put a course up and then they leave it. For me, it's an active digital product that, you know, I constantly refresh and I add new lessons. And especially if it's a software, you know, sometimes there's a new version and you want to just teach a new feature and you add that in, and it brings people back onto the platform because you get that announcement to say, hey, there's a new course, come back in. Did you leave a rating the first time, etc.? So for me, those are not 32 books on the shelf. Those are 32 living, active channels that I have to my students that I'm constantly trying to refresh and keep current and improve as much as possible. And it's just a case of prioritizing doing that versus creating new courses, and what update in which course is going to have the most benefit and is the most needed, etc. So yeah, as I said at the beginning, you get better and better doing it right the first time with each successive course. And I think I do need to take a month or two and just kind of go back and do a full refresh, you know, across all my other courses as well.
Yeah. And this is one of, I really appreciate you doing this live with me, because this is kind of one of the things I want people to see, is they're like, wow, look at Peter. He's this huge course creator. He's got all of these things. But then what they're hearing, this inner narrative that is kind of leading to this accessibility myth, is that look at all the work that Peter is going to have to do to go bring those up to snuff in terms of accessibility. But like we just said, if you're just in your video editor, you can, right after you export the video, export the audio, and that takes you 30 more seconds, right? Instead of a month to go back and redo all these things. You have to find it and try to upload it. And so I'm hoping that these Friday streams could actually be good, like, oh wow, I see the value in doing this from the start rather than going back and through. Both are good, but one's a little better, right? So thank you for demonstrating that. We looked, and so just kind of keeping on here, we're almost through all of my points that I like to look through. We saw the video content has captions and transcripts, and we had a great chat about that. One of the things is, let me look at one of your files here, and we want to see if these files are, I'm just going to choose a random one here. We're going to download it. We're going to open it up. And Word documents are pretty straightforward. So this, I think, would be, right, this looks like it's clearly a template. So that's going to be real straightforward. You've got your different headings and titles. And as I'm looking at this, so one thing that you can do here, okay, so you have it over here. You have these set as headings up here. And when you're looking, when a screen reader is trying to do this, so if someone who's visually impaired is trying to use a screen reader, the screen reader really functions off of these, let's see, where did it go? So this is the heading area up here. When you choose one, why? I've been using Google Docs too much. So we want these things to, oh, here it is. So under the styles, in Microsoft Word, you want one heading one. So what I would do, or you want one title. So you could see these different areas up here. So you're calling this your main title. but it's formatted as body text. And so that actually gives screen readers a bit of a hard time. So what you can do is just highlight it, come up here to title, and then move it back here. And if you want to change the formatting, you can, right? But now it's a title, and the screen reader is going to pull that out. And then subtitle, again, they have a subtitle one, and then you could just put it back to the middle. And then this could just be normal body text. And so what we're doing is we're just kind of going through and we're assigning these different types to it. And then you've got it here, right? This is a heading, and then this is body text. And so this table is going to work well, and these areas are going to work well with the screen reader. But we want to make sure that there's always a title and no more than one heading one in a manuscript. So there can be a little bit of polishing to be done there. This is obviously one that is your goal is to be edited. And so now we could even always listen to it. This is one thing I like to show people. You can have it dictate and listen to what it says. I'm not sure if that's coming across for you all. My settings are a little weird, so I can't hear my computer sound, but oh, sorry, that's the wrong dictate. Where did that go? I've gotten so much more used to Google Docs at this point, just because they make a lot of this accessibility stuff really easy. There's screen readers. So there's Google Read and Write. So if you want to listen to what a screen reader would sound like of some of your documents, that's an easy thing that you can do. All right, the last few points here, this is afterwards. This is kind of a down the road sort of thing that I really like to include. This is, I think, one of the most powerful things you can do to improve your teaching is anonymous customer feedback. And that first word scares people. They don't want the anonymous part, because when people are anonymous, they're honest. And if your name is attached to feedback, it's going to influence your feedback, because I don't want Peter to be mad at me. I don't want him to think negatively of me. I want to say nice things. And whereas if it's anonymous, I'm going to still say those nice things, but I'm also going to probably be a bit more honest about where my hangups were. And so it can take some thick skin. It can be scary. But do you have anything at the end of your course for feedback? Like, hey, let me know how this was for you. Just here's an anonymous little survey. Do you have anything like that?
Yes, definitely. There is a rating and a review feature that pops up at random places throughout the course. So if you get to the end of a lecture, it is inserted then between that lecture and the next one. You can click on it to ask again at another stage or at the end of the course, but it's not anonymous. So, you know, that'll then be the username's rating and review, which will show up as the social proof on the landing page of the course. I'm just trying to think about how you would add in anonymous feedback. It would be quite interesting to consider how you do that.
Yeah, and that's great for social proof. But again, the perspective that I'm taking is a teaching one, right? And so this is where you, the instructor, my goal here for this one is that you, Peter, find out exactly what is working for your students and what is not, so that you can iterate on that course or apply those things to your new course. So this can work secondary as social proof, but this is for you to really get good, honest feedback from your students. And sometimes, again, we don't see those fine details as the experts. We might completely miss that this lesson's not making sense, because it makes sense to us, the professionals or the experts, but to a beginner, we might have missed a step or two. What I like is just a Google form. So at the end of it, your action steps. So down here in this conclusion, you could, or the end of it, the celebrate, somewhere down in here, be like, hey, I have this anonymous Google form that I'd love for you to share your thoughts on this course. If you have the ability to incentivize, be like, I'll give you a 20% off coupon to another one of my courses if you fill it out. Yeah, and that could just be like at the end of the course, there's the little coupon code that they can use, or the end of the survey. So if you want to incentivize it, you can, but you might not have everyone doing it. But the feedback in there, again, that's for you and your teaching, that really goes a long way. And so I like to get one right at the end. And then this is one that I think a lot of people miss, a down the road. So I want you to reach back out to them a month later. And once they've had time to implement, once the publishing has gotten done, because my guess is a lot of people, they're going to take your course, and hopefully at the end of those 5 days, they're going to publish, but some people may take another week or 2 weeks. And so how does your course hold up a month down the road? How's the implementation going? And this is in a lot of courses, people don't, or they implement and then the course ends and that's it. And so the true test is down the road. Can you send them a timed email that is a month after they enroll in the course to say, hey, I wanted to check in and see how it's going. Like, got another survey. I'd love for you to fill it out and see if this is still applicable, if it's working. Was there, because they might be like, I got it up and then this happened, and it might bring something up to you that never would have come up while they're going through the course, but you learn afterwards. So just a simple Google form. Again, these are for you to iterate on the course and improve the effectiveness of it, more than even for your customers, more than for social proof. These are really for you that we're after.
Fantastic, Dustin. I mean, just on the Google form, I mean, I think it would have to be anonymous, because obviously Udemy, we only communicate with our students through the platform. So I would not be able to or allowed to gather any other information from them that's personal, like an email or their name, etc. So it would have to be anonymous, which I think is the objective that you were highlighting there, that you could achieve with the Google Forms. And then the sort of follow-up aspects is the announcements feature, which is really intended to increase engagement, and follow up on the course after it's been completed, which, as I mentioned, I can either mention additional courses or, I've got another course called Launch a Podcast in 5 days. And I did an announcement the other day where I, again, just show my own progress in my own podcast, and sort of, I kind of made the point, well, if you'd started a month ago, you'd have a month worth of podcast done now. And I've had a month pass, and just kind of, again, just incentivize, through that sort of a bit of a champion challenger in a friendly way to say, come on, keep going, get it done, maybe go back into the course, do a refresher, not too late to try and achieve that goal, etc.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. That's one of the things you're doing, getting them engaged. That can be a hard thing to do. Keeping the reminders going is awesome. But Peter, that brings me through my entire checklist. I know that's a deep dive. I know we went a little longer than we're expecting, which is great. It means we're having some good conversation around these things. But as we're all done here, do you have any questions for me or anything else you'd like to talk about on this course or point out?
Dustin, no, I think you've covered a very good framework, and you certainly, sort of emphasized those inclusivity aspects, which I think is absolutely vital and just broadens your target group. I think, it's not a lot of extra work if it's done in real time as you create the course, but broadens it and it sets you up as an instructor that, does build that into your courses and widens, the appeal, I think, which is extremely powerful. So I really do appreciate that. I mean, I'm just looking through the notes that I took, and I'll just be sure to watch this recording again a couple of times. So I think, I've always said it's like a good golf swing. There's about 100 things to try and remember as you take the swing, but you've also got to take the swing. You've got to take the shot, get around the golf course. So, thank you for these tips and these insights, and I'm certainly going to add as many of them as I can. And I've got, I think, 4 or 5 specific actions that I can quickly go and make on this course now as a result of this chat this evening. So I'll do those. And thank you once again, Dustin. Appreciate it.
Hey, I love to hear that. And I love that you're here doing this. And like you said, there's a million things that you can do, but bringing that light to accessibility and effective teaching is going to help you stand out. Just Paul has said it in his podcast, and what happened with COVID is we've had this flood of online content and online courses, and Paul says, well, there used to be an app for that. Well, now there's a course for that. So this market is getting really saturated. So how do we stand out as content creators and course creators? How do we deliver well? And I think some of the things that are really going to set people apart are ones that have real polished courses that are accessible and taught really well. I think those are going to be the people that stand out as this kind of wave starts to settle and who is left standing, because there's just been a flood. And so if we can get ahead of that by being one of the more accessible and effective courses or course creators out there, you're gonna do really well and get known for that. So thank you so much for this, Peter. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you who watched till the end and got through the tech stuff. Again, I want to point out, you can check out this course from Peter down below. It's in the description of this video. There's the link there. There's also the link to all of Peter's social profiles and handles and all of those good things. Mine are in there too if you're interested, but we're here to promote Peter. So Peter, any last things for the audience before we sign off?
No, Dustin, I'm going to tune in again to these, live sessions that you hopefully are going to run regularly now on a Friday. And I think, it should be something that many other course creators do. So I'm certainly going to point them here, and also just echo your thanks to everyone that was watching today, and grateful for the input. And let's, we'll see each other on the journey, and look forward to teaching more people and just creating good content to get it out there.
Love it. Love it. Thank you all. Thank you, Peter. I'm going to end the stream here.